This is Stacy McKibben with the Master Communicator podcast, where CEOs, senior leaders, and C-suite executives share their advice. It's 6 questions in 9 minutes because the best leaders know how to share their ideas concisely and quickly. Let's jump right in. Question number 1. In a few sentences, tell me who you are and what you do.
Sure. So my name is Shelby Green, and I'm a holistic financial planner. I'm also the owner of SAG Financial Group. And so what we do is we do holistic financial planning to cover all different topics of finance, money, budgeting, financial coaching, retirement, investing, risk management, pretty much anything to do with money or finance. That's exactly what we do when we build the plan. So that way you have basically an efficient way to handle your finances and to have a map for your future.
Explain the holistic part a little bit. When you say holistic plan, what does that mean for you guys?
Yeah, so there's some people in my industry, they mostly focus on maybe one thing, right? And so generally, like you would have somebody who would focus on just investing or maybe just retirement or just X, Y, and Z. Holistic means for us is that we focus on all of it because all the different pieces of the puzzle need to be put together and explained to you in a way that makes sense. So that way you can see how everything actually coincides with each other versus just having one piece of information here.
Sounds like a lot of the leadership strategies too that are very effective, right? When you take a kind of a holistic look at the business and the way you're leading people, it's kind of the same approach.
Exactly.
So I like that. That's what I thought the alignment might be. What's the best thing about leading people from your perspective?
The best thing is actually how much you learn from leading other people, because the people who are even my employees, for example, they're even though I may be their boss or leader, right? In that actual term there's been a lot that I've actually learned from them just from listening, and I learned a lot about myself personally, just because of my leadership style and kind of the ways that we communicate with each other. And so I think one of the most beneficial things is just how much you learn and how much you grow personally.
I love that. Which actually interestingly leads me to my third question, which is I often hear from other leaders that business would be great if it weren't for the actual pesky people part. I'm curious, what are your thoughts about that?
I think that everybody who a leader calls pesky, they hired. Mm-hmm. And so I think they need to reconsider potentially who they hire, what they're looking for in a person, maybe have a better or longer vetting process. For me, I make sure that when I'm hiring somebody, that it's somebody that completely is along with a few different things, not just their skills and abilities, but also are they going to be aligned with our culture, with our mission of the company? And so it's not just about that specific individual and how good they are at completing a task, but it's also, hey, does this person mix well with everybody else? Is the dynamic of what we're going to have together actually going to coincide with each other?
Love that. Again, so it's putting us back in the driver's seat and the chair of responsibility and ownership there. What other successful business leaders like yourself should be on the podcast? In other words, who else should we be listening to? Who else has a great voice out there in terms of, inspiration and, great ideas?
Yeah, so there's a million, honestly, that I could name. I'm going to keep it to 2, so I don't spend 5 minutes naming a bunch of names. But Victoria Kopp is actually a good friend of mine and a client, and she's doing really big things. She's actually a life coach. And so she is phenomenal, and her growth and her process and her story is so inspiring that I think that she would be an excellent person to just listen to on a general basis. And so her company is Victory Life Coaching. She'd be a great person to talk to. Also, Gabriel DeLua. He is actually my clothier. So he actually makes my suits for me, but he also has an amazing story with his family and kind of how he got into it and why he does what he does. And so I think he's also another person who's a leader in this community. These are both local people to Atlanta. And so these are leaders in the community who I think would be awesome to talk to.
They sound like they have a lot of purpose and passion behind what they're doing as well.
That's exactly what drives them, and that's exactly why I even mentioned their names.
that comes through. What piece of advice about communication would you give to other leaders?
So communication is a huge thing. So one is listen more than you speak. I have worked on this very diligently over the last few years. So something that I didn't do when I first actually started being a leader, or I started building my own business, those kind of things. And I would basically have my rules set, kind of. I have my guidelines, my rules set, and I would want to communicate in a way that I'm portraying what I want done. I'm portraying what I want to happen, and I wasn't necessarily listening as much. It was a weakness of mine, and my mentor actually told me, he's like, "Why don't you just try listening and doing things a little bit opposite of the way I'm doing now?" And so, when it came to even rules and guidelines, I would ask people who I was already working with. I'm like, "Well, what do you guys think about this? Do you guys think that would be a good idea?" So I think listening, is the most important thing to do for any leader, especially when it comes to communication. I think also is kind of making sure that you're taking out any emotional bias towards anything. So if you think that when you're communicating with somebody and you're angry, you have to really consider that you are angry at this person. And so you may say something or lash out without actually thinking about fully what you're saying or how you're saying it. And I think that tact is really important when you're having a conversation with someone, and is definitely one of the key factors with effective communication. And so those kind of things can definitely affect things. It can be a good thing too at the same time. Obviously, if you have empathy or something like that, it can build a very strong relationship. But relationship is also another effective communication strategy, because it's not just about the fact that they're your employee, but they're also a human and they're working with you. Right. So that's the way I view all the people I have that I'm leading. Is they're not working for me, they're working with me. And so we're all working together. And so it makes communication very easy, because we bounce ideas off of each other. Right. Like my marketing manager, for example, I'm not just saying, "Hey, do this." It's, "Hey, what do you think about this? Do you think that'd be a good idea?" And then she bounces back another idea. And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that sounds way better than what I said. So yeah, let's go. Let's go ahead and let's try that." So I think those are some very important key characteristics. And I think the next one is vulnerability. I think that the fact that if someone's willing to be vulnerable and clear on what they're looking for or what they want or anything like that, I think it also shows, it actually translates also to the individual, right? So if I'm vulnerable about what's going on, if I'm clear, then that person can also be vulnerable and clear as well. It especially helps when you have issues that you're trying to resolve, and you're kind of holding it inside because you don't want to, let it out. And then that ends up actually being festering inside of you and in creating more issues than fixing, right? You think, "I'm going to try and avoid this issue by letting it out." Whereas actually, if you are vulnerable and clear with somebody, you can actually explain what's going on without having to worry about that. So
Yeah.
I think those would be the key characteristics for at least what I'm thinking of that would be useful for communication.
Well, again, I think the part that's coming through for me in relation to this is how much time you're investing in thinking about communication. Clearly you've invested a lot of time and energy in learning it, thinking about it, and prioritizing it. So I think that's, again, another key takeaway there.
For sure.
In 1 minute, tell us your favorite boss or teacher. Who's really influenced you?
Yeah, so his name is Dr. Newsom. So he was my professor, my finance professor. And I learned so much from him. And it really started and kick-started my original profession, which was a financial advisor. And so he pretty much helped me as soon as I graduated college. He helped me get that first job. He put me in the right direction. He gave me all the advice that I needed, but he also was the one that helped shape my philosophies around finance. He's a certified financial planner, and so he knows a lot what he's talking about when it comes to money and finance. And so he was pretty much my first coach and mentee when it came to that. And I heavily look up to him still to this day.
That's amazing. Very blessed to have someone like that in your life. Thank you so much for being on the show, Shelby. How can people find you if they want to reach out and introduce themselves or learn more?
Sure. So my company is SAG Financial Group. And so they can find out information on sagfinancialgroup.com. They can also feel free to find me on LinkedIn or Instagram or Facebook at SAG Financial Group. My name is Shelby Green. So you can also find me there, and email shelbygreen@sagfinancialgroup.com. So plenty of ways.
That's awesome. Well, again, thank you so much. We really appreciate having you here. And this is Stacey McKibben with the Master Communicator Podcast. For more ideas and insights, please do go check us out at www.concilioteam.com. We look forward to seeing you again next time. Take care.